Which one is better, Gauss or Tesla? Time for another Necron Natter. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, time for another Necron Natter, and then this one I want to have a chill chat about Gauss versus Tesla, in particular on the Necron Immortal unit. Now through this video I'm going to say Gauss as opposed to Gauss, which I know is supposed to be the way it's pronounced, but I always call it Gauss and I always will do, so there you go. Okay, so I just want to have a quick chat really about the history a little bit of Immortals, in particular the models. So we always had one sculpt, well, a couple of different poses, but basically one model with one gun, and that was the Gauss Blaster, which was a pretty decent gun, and Immortals were an elite's choice. They had a slightly higher toughness, they were toughness 5, and they recently changed them and they made them a troops choice. They brought the toughness down slightly, and they introduced a brand new model, and on that model, or in that model kit, was a brand new weapon option, the Tesla carbines. Now the Tesla carbine was or the Tesla weapon was a brand new introduction, a new weapon format to the Necrons. Very, very welcomed. Gave us a nice variety of different weapon options so that not everything was Gauss weapons. So it was really, really nice to see. And the Tesla had a new special rule, and that was when you roll to hit, if you got any 6s, you got 2 additional hits for free. So a very, very nice bonus for the weapon. Now I want to talk about weapon stats in a minute, but let's just have the chat about the actual models. So I have 20 of the old Necron Immortals, and the old metal ones, and they're all modelled with the weapon option that they came with, which is the Gauss Blaster. Only one option. Now I can see the point of view of Games Workshop. They're introducing a brand new kit to what has been a model that all the Necron players are going to have. So how do they make you want to buy this kit? Easy. They give you a new gun, a new weapon option that everybody is going to want, so that everybody buys the brand new kit. Makes very good business sense. Of course, not everyone has the means to actually go out and buy that brand new kit, or maybe they just don't want to. I mean, in my case, I said, well, I've got 20. Do I really need more? Okay, you've got a new gun option, but that's okay. I only play friendly games. So with my buddies, I'm just going to proxy them, and that's what I did. Did a few proxy games. So, you know, this unit has got Tesla carbines tonight, fine, and we proxied them. So yeah, obviously the carbines were good. So let's have a quick look at the stats. So what they did is they slightly nerfed the old Gauss Blaster. It became a rapid fire weapon. So 24 inches, and then if you get into 12-inch range, you can fire 2 shots. So 1 shot at 24, 2 shots at 12. In the old rules, they were 2 shots at 24 inches. So you had a little bit of a nerf on the old gun. However, you did have the Gauss special rule, which at the time of the release was any 2 hit rolls on vehicles were automatically a glancing hit unless they were already a penetrating hit. Now the old rules were on vehicles and also units, so if you had a monstrous creature you always wounded that on a 6. So they nerfed that. They took the wounding on 6s out, they changed the gun range, and then they gave you a Tesla gun option, which was a 24-inch gun, not rapid fire, only 1 shot, but like I said, with the Tesla special rule. So if you hit with a 6, you got 2 additional hits. So if you had a unit of 10 shooting at 24 inches, you've got 10 dice you're rolling, you're probably going to get at least a couple of 6s, and that's going to give you 4 extra hits. Now, of course, they didn't want to make it too powerful, so they changed the AP of the gun. So the Gauss weapon is AP4 and the Tesla weapon is AP0. So you can see the attraction of the Tesla gun, especially when they introduced the rulebook that had Overwatch. So you were able to Overwatch, which obviously you only hit on 6s, and of course at the time, it's changed now, but at the time any 6s that you got your 2 extra dice. So Tesla became very, very popular. Now I was proxying, as I said, the Tesla guns, but to be fair, a lot of the time I was still playing Gauss, because I thought Gauss was still very good. We're going to have a talk about this in a minute. I just want to carry on the story. So the current codex has come out. Let's just have a quick sip of coffee. And the Tesla guns have changed slightly with the current codex. Primarily on the Overwatch. So you can no longer get 2 additional shots if you're basically snap firing the gun. So not just Overwatch, but also shooting at vehicles in the sky. So they changed the Gauss weapon slightly so that not only did the 6s to wound automatically glance vehicles, but also gave an auto wound against anything that's a toughness that they can't hurt. So the Gauss got slightly better. So you can see there's a quandary between the 2 gun options, and there's been many lengthy discussions about the 2. I'm just going to put forward my opinions on what I like to use and my experience, and also throw out some stuff that I've heard from others, ultimately so that we can get some feedback on the videos, so that people can come and watch this video and then read all of the comments and make their own minds up. So I'm going to start off by saying that I think Gauss is better in most circumstances, and I'm going to explain the reason why I like Gauss. So I have the models with the actual Gauss blaster on, which is a big impact on me, especially now that I've been playing a few tournaments, because if I wanted to have the carbines, the Tesla carbines, I would have to change the models or buy new models, because I couldn't go to a tournament with Gauss blasters on the actual model and say they're Tesla carbines. So I've been using them a lot because of that fact. And what I like about the Gauss is that I think it's a better all-round gun. You have your infantry side of it. You've got a 24-inch gun, you've got the rapid fire. So if your enemy gets quite close to you, you do have the option to obviously rapid fire. So even a unit of 5 guys can punch out quite a number of shots, 10 shots, which is pretty reasonable at strength 5. Plus you've got AP4. Now I know AP4 doesn't sound that great, but what I've noticed is with Games Workshop, they are trying to get more models on the table, and what they're doing is a bit like in the Necron Codex, where they've given you the Immortals with a 3+ save and the Warriors with a 4+ save, and the Warriors generally, I think on the whole, between Immortals and Warriors, I think on the whole Warriors generally are more widely used because they're quite cheap. You know, they're 130 points for 10 Warriors. That's pretty decent, and I think Games Workshop generally are doing that. Let's take Space Marines for example. I mean, how many Space Marines players are exchanging their troops for scouts? Because scouts almost have the same stats apart from the save, which is a 4+ save. So the point I'm making is, I think more and more armies are having more units on the table, but slightly weaker, and an AP4 gun denying saves is just awesome on just a standard troop choice. So I really like that, and that was notable at one of the tournaments that I went to at WarGames recently, was where I was playing Tom, I'm going to say Tom and Dom from Black Toe Studios. I was playing Tom and he had his scouts, and those Gauss blasters were pretty devastating against those scouts. So I like the AP of the gun, and then Gauss. I mean, Gauss is just a very, very secure gun to have. Just knowing that regardless of what's in front of you, regardless of the armour value of the tank, you are going to be able to glance that vehicle on a 6. Regardless of what massive monstrous creature is in front of you, you are going to be able to glance that on a 6. If there's an Imperial Knight in front of you, you can glance that on a 6. And that's just your basic troop gun. That is pretty awesome right there. So that's the reasons that I like the Gauss. Now I can see Tesla having its own advantages. We're going to talk about Tesla now and the advantages of that, of course. So, okay, you have no AP. Well, not too much of a problem, really. Arguably, you could say, contrary to what I've just said, that the AP4 doesn't really do much because most people are playing 2+ saves and a 3+ saves. Maybe in your environment that is the case. So I suppose that's another thing to bear in mind. It could be the environment. If you're playing in the, like a basement games and you're playing against orcs or maybe Aldar every week, and they've all got not very good saves, then obviously Gauss fantastic. If you're playing Space Marines every week and they're always using tactical squads and Terminators and things, then the Gauss going to have absolutely no relevance, or the AP, sorry, it's going to have absolutely no relevance. So your gaming group obviously is situational. So yeah, Tesla, you've got the range, so you always have that 24-inch bonus. So at 24 inches, you always get your 6s with 2 extra dice, of course, apart from snap firing. So you have the range with Gauss. If you've got a unit of 5 Immortals with Gauss, you only ever get 5 shots at 24 inches. With Tesla, you get 5 shots, and if you roll another 6 or 2 6s, if you get lucky, 3 6s, 4 6s, you never know, 5 6s, but you get all of those extra shots. So that's great. 24 inches with the chance of getting those extra shots, really, really good. And if there's no vehicles that you need to shoot at, which is another point I want to make, because it's not just about the unit itself, it's about the army. But yeah, if you have no vehicles to shoot at, and you're just shooting at infantry, then I think probably Tesla, to be fair, does probably outweigh Gauss. Excuse me. But this is the other big factor of Gauss versus Tesla on Immortals. It 100% comes down to what else you have in the army. Time for a coffee break. So if you have a lot of Gauss in your army already, if you already have a lot of tank busting guns in your army, maybe you're taking heavy destroyers, maybe you're taking a Doom Scythe, maybe you're taking the Annihilation barges. They're strength 7, they're pretty good vehicle killers. If you've got a lot of anti-tank guns on the table already, then I think you can safely say that you can take Tesla carbines on your Immortals, your infantry killers, and leave the job for tank hunting to your other units. And I think that's the key thing. Now, I play a lot of armies that don't really have much shooting for Necrons. I know it might sound a bit weird because obviously Necrons are a shooty army, but I'm really enjoying playing flayed ones and wraiths and scarabs, scarab farm, etc. So units really don't have much shooting. So generally my shooting, in not all of my lists, but in some of my lists, my shooting is actually quite limited to the point that I don't really concentrate on shooting too much, and I just have my warriors and my Immortals. And I think that's why I swing towards Gauss, because Gauss gives me that all-round shooting option. And what I have noticed in my assault sort of based armies, like my Necron Flake One army, is that when my enemy does actually get close to my back ranks, even just like 4 units of 5 Immortals, they can actually put out quite a decent amount of firepower. And like I said earlier, regardless of what comes into my deployment zone, whether that's a Land Raider, full of Terminators or whatever, I've got the ability to at least do a little bit of damage. And of course rapid fire is awesome, so 12 inches gives you those 10 shots guaranteed. Now of course if we're playing in the Decurion, we do then get relentless on those Immortals, so we can rapid fire and then we can assault, which gives us our +1 bonus for assaulting, and also denies a +1 attack for your enemy assaulting you. So on the whole I do definitely like Gauss better, but I think that is situational. Now in terms of Tesla, I've heard a few, not arguments, but a few people talk about the fact that it depends on the unit size, whether Tesla is better than Gauss. So for example, Fritz 40k, he made a few comments. Now I don't know how current this view is, because it could be like an older video, but he commented that he likes to use Tesla on smaller units of Immortal. So if he's using 5, he likes to have the Tesla because you've got the potential for more shots in that unit at the longer range. And of course Necrons like to be at long range. We don't like to generally assault, especially with our troops. We can avoid assaulting with that initiative 2, which we're very, very, very vulnerable to being either wiped out first, or if we're not wiped out first, to being swept in the sweeping advance with the initiative 2. So long range is where we're at. So his view is, if you've got 5 guys, you're shooting long range, any 6s to hit gives you those bonus 6s. Hey presto, the best option. And I can see that. I can see that. In actual fact, in my recent tournament list at WarGames, where I had 4 squads of 5 Immortals, in the practice game that I had against my buddy with his Blood Angels, it did occur to me that possibly that list might work better if I had Tesla on those guns, because it just gives me that range with the potential to get more shots. But in hindsight, thinking about it, I think 100% the Gauss was better in that list. It was my only shooting apart from 3 heavy destroyers, and being able to wound and hurt vehicles with that Gauss gun, I think really outweighed that. But it did certainly make me think. Now, I've also heard comments about units of 10, in that people like to have the Tesla on units of 10 because your chance of getting 6s to hit with Tesla when you've got 10 shots is obviously dramatically increased. So you've got much higher chance of getting those 6s and getting the bonus shots. And again, I think that's very, very valid. So I think there is definitely room for a big discussion on this topic. As I said, I am going to put my vote down as Gauss being better. A, I have the models with Gauss. B, I like the AP. C, I feel much more secure with the Gauss, being able to wound and glance any vehicle regardless of toughness and armour. So I think that's very, very good to have, especially with the type of armies that I take. Now you have to bear that in mind. If I was taking armies with a lot of good armour penetration and high strength within the Necron list, and I had the models with Tesla carbines, I probably would be fielding them as well, sort of like a mixture. So yeah, that is the chat over. So I'm really, really looking forward to reading your comments. I'm sure everyone's going to have some opinions on this age-old argument of Gauss versus Tesla on Immortals. So yeah, let's have a look at your comments. Thanks for watching.